Dear all, a very warm welcome to Cell.do CEO Summit Bengaluru, presented by Realty Plus Masterclass. Friends, as you would all know, most industry reports and surveys indicate that real estate developers are likely to post record sales led by robust response from home buyers expected to continue during the festive months. So discussing these developments and many more will be this session. I'm Sapna Srivastava, editor Realty Plus, and let's begin with a brief introduction of Realty Plus.
Some people are born to show the world which path to choose in a crisis. Some brands are born to do the same. And during the times of challenge, the stalwarts of Indian real estate industry have chosen to do just that by showing others the way to finding opportunities even amidst a crisis. By showing the world how to go about delivering on promises even amidst adversity. Success doesn't just happen. It happens by design, by pushing the boundaries, by raising the bar. It's days of creating a vision and nights of bringing it to life. Knowing that pictures are worth 1,000 words and every word makes a difference. It's doing the research, trusting your instinct and finishing what you started. For the past 17 years, Realty Plus has been turning obstacles into opportunities, keeping the industry informed on the latest developments. Innovating to inspire debate and discussion. Bringing forth the perspectives of industry leaders. Honoring hard work and achievement. Keeping the industry connected. This is what we are built on. This is what we are building. We are Realty Plus and we lead the way.
So this was a brief snippet of what Realty Plus is, its products and its initiatives. To know more about Realty Plus, do get in touch with Ms. Tripti Kedia, publisher and business head Realty Plus. And now, moving on to the program of the day, I welcome all our eminent speakers here to be part of this summit on the topic of Bengaluru Realty poised for transformation and growth. The theme is quite apt given the present COVID recovery times and the way IT capital of India, Bengaluru, has performed in terms of economic revival. So let me introduce our eminent panel. The session will be moderated by seasoned marketer Vikram Kotnis, Executive Chairman and MD Cell.do. Vikram Kotnis has over 18 years of experience in incubating and scaling up successful businesses. Vikram co-founded Cell.do, India's leading sales and marketing CRM for real estate businesses. It enables real estate companies to automate their entire consumer cycle on a single platform. It has a suite of cloud-based sales and marketing automation products, which helps the real estate companies market smarter and sell faster. So Cell.do has partnered with more than 600 real estate businesses across India in their digital transformation journey. Mr. Kotnis, a very warm welcome to you. Let me now introduce our eminent speakers in an alphabetical order. I welcome Mr. Abhishek Kapoor, Executive Director and CEO, Puravankara Limited. Mr. Abhishek Kapoor is responsible for driving the growth of residential businesses largely under the Puravankara and Provident brands. An accomplished real estate professional with over 22 years of experience, Abhishek has worked with companies like Raymond Real Estate, Radius Developers, and Rustomjee Group. His vast experience and highly successful track record in real estate covers strategic planning and implementation, project optimization, joint ventures, private equity deals, sales and marketing, as well as managing senior level government relationships. Mr. Kapoor, a very warm welcome to you to this session. Let me introduce our next eminent panel member, Mr. Ashwinder R. Singh, CEO, Residential, Bhartiya City. Ashwinder Singh is responsible for strengthening the residential assets and sales, which includes the premium and luxury residences, Niku Homes, and Leela Residences. With a career traversed over 23 years, he has worked with many organizations of repute, taking up leadership roles and helping businesses grow, including JLL India, Anarok, Bajaj Housing Finance Limited, and leading financial entities, including Citibank, ICICI Bank, and Deutsche Bank in India and abroad. Mr. Singh, a very warm welcome to you as well. And let me go on and introduce our next eminent speaker, Mr. Rajendra Joshi, CEO, Residential Business Brigade Group. Mr. Rajendra Joshi leads a team of over 200 professionals engaged across Brigade's diverse residential portfolio in Bengaluru, Mysuru, Chennai, and Hyderabad. With a well-rounded experience of over 29 years in FMCG, real estate, sales, marketing, and leadership roles, Mr. Joshi has worked in multinational and Indian corporates and has helped shape brands like Mahindra Lifespaces, ST Corp Real Estate, Reynolds, and BPL. Mr. Joshi, welcome to this session. And let me introduce our next speaker, Mr. S. Bhaskaran, Group CEO, Ozone Group. Mr. S. Bhaskaran has over 2 decades of experience in real estate, managing revenue and profitability, investor relations, debt control, along with different facets of the business, including product planning, marketing, operations, management, and business development. Previously, Mr. Bhaskaran had been associated with Monthly Developers and Soba Limited in leadership roles across different functions. Mr. Bhaskaran, a very warm welcome to you. And let me introduce our final panel member, Mr. Srinivasan Subramanian, CEO, SNN Builders. With years of advertising, communications, and marketing experience, Mr. Srinivasan Subramanian is currently at the helm of SNN Builders Private Limited and has ensured that the company is placed within the top 10 real estate developers in Bengaluru within a very short span of time. Prior to joining SNN, Mr. Subramanian was with the TWA in the Middle East as managing director and has coordinated some of the best brands with his team on key international accounts. So these are our eminent speakers of the day. I now request our moderator to please take over the proceedings. Vikram, over to you now.
Thank you so much for the introductions, and what a pleasure it is to, and an honor it is to host such a panel, right? We almost represent Bangalore's 40% of inventory and market share here, right? So look forward to hear from all the thought leaders. Without further delay, I'm just gonna run into questions now. I'm gonna start with Mr. Kapoor. So Mr. Abhishek Kapoor, you run one of the largest real estate brand in Bengaluru. So Bangalore has actually seen the lowest unsold inventory overhang among India's top 7 cities, right? So is there a reason Bangalore has not faced this critical situation vis-a-vis other markets? What do you foresee as the future short term as more and more projects get launched? And what segment is the demand highest in, right? So would love to hear your thoughts on the same.
Thanks. So Bangalore, the demand largely is driven by the quantum of business that is getting generated in terms of especially IT and financial services that are operating out of Bangalore. And of course, allied to that, there are a whole lot of knowledge outsourcing also that happens here. And with all of this commercial activity that happens, the demand has sustained and it's continued to grow. I mean, being the being the IT capital of the country in a manner of speaking, and in fact globally, because a large amount of global IT work happens out of Bangalore. So, the population that is continuing to grow here, the kind of employment that is getting generated here has continued to keep the demand going. Having said that, I think the other part is, Bangalore has got fantastic climate. It has got fantastic social environment. Of course, infrastructure is also improving with the smart city implementation. So there is a lot of traction for Bangalore as a city. And consumers are really interested in taking decisions. And in fact, a lot of customers are not only doing first home buying, but are actually upgrading as well. So it's a very, very deep market, and we feel that on an ongoing basis, going forward as well, as the people who have started coming back to work, the business is only going to scale up because they're all coming back to Bangalore, and we are seeing that traction happen on ground. So the market depth and the volumes are continue to sustain. And pretty much, if you look at the RTM, you're right. The ready to move inventory is pretty much over. So new launches are only filling the gap of demand, and I believe that we are all going to be doing a good quantum of business as we go forward.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let's hope that keeps continuing. My next question would be for Mr. Rajendra Joshi. So the supply side has been severely impacted by sharp rise in material cost, and basically only 50% migrant workers have returned back, right? And the cost have almost gone up by 30% over the last 3 to 4 months. So it's almost at a point where it's going to breach the demand pricing. And so what do you see as challenges? Will customers, we still have not passed on the cost to the consumer because everybody wanted to sell right now in volumes and get their cash flows in place. Will the trend continue, or what kind of pressure is it going to put on developers? Although the demand is there, but the costs are also, the inflationary pressures are also up. So how do you handle that?
Correct. Absolutely, Vikram. The costs certainly are going up, particularly steel, petroleum products, and all allied products like the UPVC, all the plastic related products, all metals are going up. Copper has gone up substantially, aluminum has gone up. So there is a huge cost pressure on the developers in the last 5-6 months. As you rightly mentioned, most of us have held prices, expecting volumes to happen. Volumes are happening, and I think it is time now for us to take certain price increases, because it will be very difficult to sustain with these kind of input cost increases. So for Brigade, effective this month, we are taking up prices, although in smaller installments. We are not taking up the entire cost effect into the pricing immediately, but we are taking up in installments. I do see that the prices would go up, because one thing that would help, and Abhishek and others would agree with this, is that there is a clear brand consolidation that is happening in the market. The market is gravitating towards the larger brands, and you would see that in Bangalore as well. The share of the larger developers, like the people on this panel and those who are not, is increasing, has increased substantially. In fact, the statistics that PropEquity shows that it has gone up by 40-50% in the last 2.5-3 years. So with that advantage, with the increasing costs, I see that the developers will be forced to take price increases. We at Brigade are doing it this month. Typically, people don't like to increase prices in a festive month, because these are big bumper months, and all our sales guys will come in and say, hey, this is not the time to do. No choice with the way the steel is going. So as you know, that steel has gone up by nearly 60%. So I don't think we have, and last week saw another huge price jump. So I don't think we have a choice now.
Do you see impact on sales as the price go up, or will it still keep absorbing?
My own sense is that there would probably initial reaction from customers, because everyone has, in Bangalore particularly, last 4-5 years have seen no real price increase in most projects. So given that, there would be certain resistance, but I think as market overall moves up, and as I said, consolidation happens, and as prices move up for all leading developers, I think people would continue to would come back to the table. That's my expectation.
All right. Thank you so much for your input there. My next question is to Mr. Srini. So a lot of people actually have been getting into JV formats, right? And the market is going under consolidation with A-grade developers who are sitting on huge credit lines, pile of cash, kind of buying out or taking over projects which are in distress. Do you think this will continue, or are these, it'll add more risk to the project? What are the risk reward in JV? Especially when the prices are going up, as Mr. Rajendra said, right? And you have a fixed JV percentage. And basically, how do you maneuver that, right? On one side, you're trying to basically fix the price for the customer, fix the price for the JV guy, and to get more inventory. But at the same time, prices, input cost is not in your control, right? So is it a wise format to get into? What are the different formats that might come up? Any insights into that, Mr. Srini?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Basically, see, the thing about taking over projects, and as you rightly said, there are a lot of distressed B grade and C grade builders are available with their projects stuck in some way or the other. And plenty of them are coming for the help of the A-grade players to take it up and complete it for them. This is coming through most of the financial institutions, as well as some personal individuals and others. There is a downside to this because we really don't know what exactly is the reason for stopping, and there is already a set of customers who have booked, and then they are waiting for the projects to be completed. And there are so many other issues related to that. You need to be careful in taking how you want to take the distressed projects, number one. And number two is we have also been approached basically because we successfully completed Clermont project to the amazement of everybody in Bangalore. The project was well received, but it has come out from SR. So we could really sit down with SR 6 months before taking over and do all those due diligence and get it done. There are plenty of projects coming through, and the only thing we need to really evaluate and then do all the legal clearances before we take it up. And B, as far as the JV is concerned, yes, there is a considerable interest in the market, but the land prices have gone up again. And with all the A-grade players coming into the plotted development also, because there is a spurt of movement as far as plotted is concerned. Every A-grade player is coming up with one, basically because it doesn't require too much in terms of developer point of view, but still they acquire and then do plenty of plotted developments. So maybe what I envisage is, since tech sector business is growing and people looking for some kind of a second home away from town, say for example, Devnali is one area where all the builders are going in and around Nandi Hills. So things are happening, but we will have to wait and see, because still pandemic is here to stay, and we need to first liquidate whatever the ready to move projects which is available. We are more or less sold out 2 of our projects and are ready with some new launches happening. All will happen, but I envisage that it will take anywhere between 6 to 9 months before we really come into launch any new projects.
So just any risk analysis guideline, because as you said, land prices are going up, costs are going up. But as Rajendra ji said, you can't take up the price up too much, right? So JVs are very tempting for people taking over distressed project just to meet your targets, right? Because ready project hai, sanction aa gaya hai, and everything is in place. So it's very due diligence. Just a couple of points on the due diligence side that you should look at.
No, I believe that I totally agree with you that JV should be part of it. Any builder, any Class A builder, always will have a mix of both JV and own projects, own land. Basically, owning a land and developing everything is much beneficial to you in terms of profits. But JV is always a difficult one, basically because it all depends what is the JV share you want to agree with them. If the land is in a good place, yes. If the land is in outskirts of Bangalore, slightly less. And it's not a win-win situation for both, but still it works out very well during this pandemic period, basically, because everyone wants to be doing something or the other, though no real new launches have taken place. But as I said, give it about 6 to 9 months, I think all the builders are working their own business plan and coming up with new launches for sure.
Sure. Thank you so much. My next question is for Mr. Bhaskaran. Speaking about the rise in demand, do you feel Bangalore infrastructure and connectivity is poised to get kind of cater to because tech is on fire right now, right? And so is Bangalore. And so how has the project planning changed due to this for you guys? Any specific things that you guys are doing to cater to this? Mr. Bhaskaran?
To answer your question first on the infrastructure, I strongly believe, I'd seen the last 20 years, infrastructure follows the real estate development. It is not the other way around, which it should have been. You take Sarjapur Road first. It was the road which nobody will dare go after 6 p.m. Today, you see how the road is bustling. Similarly, Bannerghatta Road. So, gone are those days where people come and see every infrastructure is there, then I'll buy. The people are seeing a future and then they are started buying. So, at least in Bangalore, generally in India, real estate development happens, then the infrastructure follows. Because that is the only first point to start everything for other activities start. First real estate goes, then a small shop comes, then a bus comes, then metro comes. You all see as a period of time. So I beg to disagree that infrastructure is required for real estate development. Real estate development brings the infrastructure development. That's how I see the happening across in Bangalore the last 2 decades at least, in number one. Number two, we are specialized in township developments, though we do couple of standalone projects, both in commercial and residential. We are a township developers. We do about 100 acres and 200 acres in Bangalore, another 70 acres in Chennai, another 40 acres in Chennai. So we are more towards a township development. We give end-to-end solution right from cradle to the graveyard to the extent. So it covers everything. So there we are seeing now post this pandemic, we see a lot of what you call interest in those type of projects, which has got everything within itself with openness. Those who want to go a smaller apartment, they can go. Those who want to buy a bigger plots and they can build their own. So these type of interest is seen, and more there is a little what you call resistance on the price at this point of time. People want to buy a bigger house. They say that they have to pay a price to get a bigger house of that whatever comforts they want to have. We do not see. Sorry. We do not see, probably we are at this affordable price. The price may be affordable for the customers. We do not see, but one good thing, what it is pushing this demand across, not only for us, but across all the developers, is this, the COVID is a positive sign. People decide that we should buy now. Okay, we should no more renting. We should have own house. We should have one office, especially in the house, to have work from office, considering COVID 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever it is, right? And nobody would have thought the lending rate will be 6.3%, 6.4%. When it was 7.5, we were all singing and dancing. In fact, now everybody is partying. Such a scenario will never get. Developers producing like a manufacturing unit, right? You produce like a manufacturing unit, the house, give it in 36 months, 42 months, and it becomes an industry by itself. That is pushing the demand more. And if you are in a gated community where you have a large development, it gives more comfort for the customers as well. And though it is too far, with the infrastructure in place, like you say, like Mr. Sheeny said, development towards airport side where they are all there, people are comfortable staying in that side and coming, because from airport to Hepal, it takes about 20-30 minutes only on the flyover, right? And from the area you are outside here, it's same time. So those type of things are also pushing the people to go beyond the city limit CBD area. The craze for CBD, excepting for few, has moved out already. So people want to go stay in the outskirts. And you see North Bangalore, starting from airport till Nandi Hills. It's just crazy. It's just crazy.
You're saying people are preferring lifestyle over location now because of work from home.
Lifestyle, the lifestyle, if you use the terminology lifestyle, it becomes a big, no, even a small 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartment, we are able to sell at the location. I would not say it is a lifestyle. It is a openness, I would say, right? When you're developing under 200 acres, you will not go high rise. You will go a little bit of medium high rise only. So you get a lot of openness. Other things comes into the picture. So it is not only lifestyle, the openness, the space, all those things is playing a big role in customers taking a decision to buy the apartment today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bhaskaran. Ashwinder ji, this next question is for you. Pre-COVID saw the demand for compact budget homes. People were not willing to spend. COVID has caused consumer, जैसे भास्करन जी ने कहा, मेरी जिंदगी खत्म हो रही है, so I want to सब ख्वाहिशें आज ही पूरी कर लो. I want a bungalow instead of apartment and all these things. So, what kind of impact you have seen on luxury segment? People wanting bigger homes, but price pressure is there. So, where do you see this going, Mr. Ashwinder?
Yeah, thank you, Vikram. A very important question. See, obviously, those looking at budget homes will not generally start looking at luxury homes owing to the ticket size. That is one important point. However, the concept of community living has gained high importance during COVID. Product design has become really important, not just within the four walls, but the design which is outside the four walls is becoming very important. Integrated townships are becoming the flavor for the current environment and time, and it is the most favorable choice of the consumer as I see it. And as we experience, we just launched our project Niku Homes 4, and we got a very good response despite being in under construction, just because of the township where people found it to be more secure. You having, even from a health perspective, one of the other changes that I see right now is that people are looking at more space in terms of definitely one extra room, which can be a workout room, a study room. So the size of the apartment that somebody wanted earlier and now has gone up, especially for the IT sector, because Bangalore is an IT sector and most of the people continue to work from home. The consumers are also paying a lot of attention now, how you want to call it luxury, or you want to call it something which has become a necessity, which was earlier a luxury, is that amenities have become of greater importance. People want to go out, they want to have spaces for walks, they want to have play areas for their kids, they want to have sports areas, etc. So I would not say that the trend is towards luxury, but even when you make an affordable house, or even when you're making a mid-segment housing, which is between say 45 lakhs to 75 lakhs or a crore, the consumer has started looking for amenities. Yes, on the luxury side, the client is looking at thematic luxury homes. They want, touch-free stuff. On the IoT solution side, especially in Bangalore, I see this trend more in Bangalore than in other places. So ticket size remains an important thing, which you have been asking, Vikram, for a long time. So sensitivity is there because there is a huge first-time buyer. I feel that it is the first-time buyer which has brought in a fillip. Obviously, people are looking at upgrades, but the first-time buyer is very price sensitive. So it might not be luxury alone that people are moving to, but people are moving to larger spaces. They are okay to go on the outskirts of a city if they get into a community living and integrated township. But yes, the requirements are becoming far more clearer, and the consumer activism is very high. They now know what they want. So that are the changes that we see.
Great. Thank you so much, Ashwinder ji, for your input. Back to you, Mr. Abhishek. So the pandemic forced government to look at alternatives for minimizing risk. Digital has picked up. Technology started playing a very, very important part, right? Real estate is a very complex beast to handle. We just handle the consumer cycle, but construction technology and so many moving parts. Means I haven't seen a crazier industry actually. After the airline or aeronautics industry, probably real estate would be the most complex to handle
Yes.
with so much policies and all interfering. So how far do you think real estate has come due to pandemic in adoption of technology across all the functions, and how has it helped? So what would be your advice to the upcoming developers? Do they need to, where is the technology adoption most critical, and what changes do you see happening going forward?
This is your favorite topic, isn't it, Vikram?
No, I'm absolutely talking about ERPs, BOQ, construction technology, wherever it is important, right?
Sure.
Consumer life cycle sale to karna padta hai, that you can't escape.
So, see, we believe that as a sector, there is a huge opportunity to really adopt and implement technology across the value chain of the business. And that starts right from design and execution, of course, to sales and marketing, and the way we process our data and churn our data as a management information system, or a ERP as you call it. So and if you look at each piece, I think the adoption of technology enables you to do the same job in a far more cost effective, more efficient, and also in a speedier way. Now, let me give you example. In design, we are talking about, today the BOQs can be far more robust and clearer if you adopt technology and the way you design your project. And therefore, with implementation of some softwares, you can have accurate, absolutely non-human intervention BOQs. Similarly, in the contracting process, you can actually adopt technology to make sure that you have online tendering process. That's another whole sphere of technology implementation. Similarly, you can have, for example, what we are doing in precast. I mean, we've already done about 3 million square foot. We have a precast factory, and precast is the way forward if you want to do speedier, cleaner, more quality development. So precast is another technology piece. Of course, the entire industry did adopt aluminum formwork across various segments. So that's again, and that continues to move along and innovate. And then of course the whole sales and marketing piece which we spoke about. But digitization per se, not from sales and marketing and consumer journey point of view, but digitization of a company across the entire value chain enables you to use information very differently. And your ability to take decisions is far more enhanced, and therefore your quality and speed of decision making also improves, because you can actually strategically maneuver. You become far more nimble because your data is coming online. For example, what we are now doing is we are implementing S4HANA, which is a cloud SAP software with IBM. And why are we doing that is because we want to basically become paperless at some point in time. And the reason why you want to be paperless is the moment every data point in your organization is digitized, and you're pretty much paperless, your ability to use the information and process the information and analyze it is far stronger. And the larger you grow, more critical it is for you to be able to do faster decision making. And therefore, as I said, technology is across the board. And I'll leave sales and marketing out because that's your favorite topic and I don't want to spend too much time on it. But yes, I mean, use of AI is ML is extremely important today in the way we're reaching out to the market. The online customer experience has become completely different in the last 1.5 years. We launched our bookmyhomenow.com, where you could actually launch and go through the entire booking process online. And that's kind of changing the consumer behavior, because today a lot more video calling is happening than it used to ever happen before the pandemic. So things have changed a lot, and I think they will continue to change because technology is going to bring a lot of solutions.
Sure. So my takeaway would be primarily business data needs to be digitized, and so including your BOQs to actually your input cost, so you are able to take decisions like price rise and all these based on data, and you can understand the impact of everything on your business down the line, right? So
since you bring up price rise, I must make one point, because I was waiting to make this point. My view is that price rise is going to be consistent over next 2 years. And I'll tell you why, and the market will accept it. The reason why market will accept it is if you see employment suddenly come back in a big way, if you see increments have come back, If you see, affordability has improved because the interest rates have come down and the cost of input has gone up. So on an overall basis, I must, I
I
must make
totally
a
agree
point.
with you. I run a tech company. My input cost has gone up by 100%. So,
Exactly.
so
So
tech salaries have gone up by almost 100%. So the price has to be there somewhere.
absolutely. So the customer will also accept it, because also the fact is that we are not going to compromise as developers on
There
the
is
quality of
inflation
home, right?
everywhere, right? That is what
Exactly.
they have to
Exactly.
accept and move ahead with.
No, no,
Thank
as
you so
told by
much.
Mr. Sorry to interrupt, as told by Mr. Joshi, there'll be initial some hiccups here and there, but people accept because, as you said, nothing comes free, right? And no developer is to do charity, and customers also find a value for money if they are going to pay. And I cannot be any developer for the matter cannot be distantly variant in a price. It can be 5-10% based on the margin, all those things, other thing, and purchasing capacity, all those things. So the price is more or less going to be common across. The brand will pay, the brand will pull the customer certain brand, other customers certain brand, and prices. And you see, we started at some Bangalore was about 4,000 rupees 5-7 years before. Now it is averaged out to 5,500. So people also move along with this. There'll be initial cribbing, all those things, but people move along with this.
All right, thank you. Over to you, Mr. Rajendra. Primarily, see, Bangalore is a city which is driven by tech, Western culture, sustainability, and all these things, right? After pandemic, health has become a major concern. And if you see a lot of layouts in Bangalore, unless you are in a township, don't allow you to have a lot of focus on health because of the high rises, not enough space the density is very high, right? That's the main issue in Bangalore. So how are we moving towards a more sustainable development? How is now health kept at centers, and what innovations is your company, or do you think in future needs to be done? Because pandemic is here to stay for some time. So how do you respond as a developer to it? Mr. Rajendra. Sir, you're on mute.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that the pandemic has taught all of us, as Ashwinder was pointing out, is that the larger gated communities have really found a favor, because it is in such communities that you will be able to provide health facilities like a clinic, a physiotherapy place, place for a nursing station. In some of the communities, people did convert some of their rooms in their clubhouses into emergency care rooms, correct? But that is possible only if you have larger common areas, amenities, etc. So what we are doing going forward in all our larger developments, even medium scale developments, is to have a clinic, a place for a pharmacy, a physiotherapy room, etc. So that's one aspect. That is when you are ill. But I think the even more important one is to build in enough space for you to exercise in the open, create large open spaces, build your gyms, build your games, facilities for games. In many of our projects that we today have a smaller football field, a cricket pitch, and many other spaces where people can come in and exercise. So that is the only way to keep yourself healthy, that you have a regular daily exercise regimen, and you need to create space for it. Earlier, most people used to say, I have a 2-acre land, how do I utilize it maximum? So if you see today, most customers from larger developers do expect communities with a lot of amenities, where you have open spaces where children can play, you have a place to exercise, do recreation, etc. So I think that is the way forward. This is what customers would look for. One is facilities, amenities when you are not well, but more important, how do you keep your health in a good shape by having various facilities within the community? That's the way forward, I would think.
From a sustainability standpoint, right? Bangalore faces a huge water crisis and all these things. And really, how to handle that? Because that's the next wars are going to be fought over water, is what everyone says, right?
Correct.
So what are you guys doing to handle it? What kind of technology, IoT adoptions are happening to tackle that?
So one of the things that I must mention, adding to what Abhishek did say on technology, in Brigade, we have a technology, real estate technology accelerator called REAP to help and promote technology within the real estate, including construction, customer acquisition, various aspects of the real estate business. So some of the companies that we have promoted is a company called VGOT, which helps in measuring the water that comes into every apartment. Typically, you measure water that comes into your entire complex. So how do you measure the water that comes into every apartment? So we are now implementing that in every project of ours, where the water consumption in every apartment is measured and is communicated back and can be charged accordingly. So all of us are clearly working on multiple rain harvesting measures. In larger communities, we have ponds where you are able to collect the rainwater and use it for various purposes. Waste recycling. So I think as developers, all of us are working towards ensuring that the water is recycled and used the most. As you said, water probably will be the most important and the most precious commodity that all of us will see. In addition, waste recycling and waste management is going to be another large area in all our cities. So all of us are working to see how can we use the waste within the community. So those are the two key areas that all of us are working towards.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Rajendra. Back to you, Mr. Srini. So we've seen areas like Kanakpura, Sarjapur, and all these Whitefield, Jakkur take a leap, right, and move fast. So what micro markets do you think, so after work from home and everything, would people try to move closer to the city, prefer a different location? Will there be a preference change in the micro markets? And which micro markets will be hot for the next 1 year or 2 years? Would love to know a little bit of insights from you on that, Mr. Srini. You're on mute, sir.
Yeah, Bangalore predominantly has got places like Whitefield, Kanakpura Road. Now Hebbal is buzzing with a lot of activities. But apart from that, I think so. Other micro markets like Begur Road, on the Hosur Road, where Harlur Road, where our project Eternia got sold out recently, has got huge demand in terms of inquiries. So it all depends on the builder to do a thorough research in terms of how they want to move. Say, for example, when we started at Begur Road, our Serenity project, we were the first one to go over there. But currently, if you go to see all the, most of the A-class builders are trying to come up with their own project. Same way, even when we started in Harlur Road, I think a couple of other builders were there, but the area is buzzing with a lot of activities, basically because connectivity is there. As Bhaskaran said, once you come up with a project that has got everything, and the gated community is really brilliant, connectivity automatically happens, and people don't really worry about it. So it all depends where you want to do it, how you want to do it. Mostly, what we have done is we have identified a couple of areas. Definitely, Yelahanka is definitely one of the areas where a lot of activities are happening. And as I said, plotted developments are happening in and around Devnalli for people to get away for their weekend homes. Kind of a concept is coming up over there. There are mix and matches of availability of product offering is being done by majority of the developers. I'm sure that post-pandemic, you will see a sea of new launches taking place in most of the places. Yes, places like Sarjapur, Whitefield, Kanakpura Road still will command more demand in terms of residents. Basically, it extends, say, for example, Kanakpura Road, if you take, now it has gone up to Ravishankar's ashram, actually. So things are, extending way into Kagalipura over there. Same way, in and around Electronic City, the market is buzzing with a lot of activities. So things will happen, and we will have to wait and see how.
Sir, I just want to simplify it for a developer who's just going to start, right?
Yeah.
For affordable mix segment, which are the top 2 micro markets? For luxury, which are the top 2 micro markets I should be working in, right? So I am
No,
a new
really,
developer. I want to get into the market. Your advice on top 2 micro markets I should be looking at: fast inventory movement, good profits. For luxury, where should I be?
luxury definitely in and around Hebal, because that area is buzzing with a lot of activities. Yelahanka is one area which is buzzing. And if you want to move into that affordable category, you'll have to get into this side of Electronic City. Beyond that, maybe in Narluru, beyond that area, because recently one of the A-class builders also launched a project over there. So as I said during my first question, basically the land cost depends your decision in terms of how you want to do it. Yes, JD is available. You can pick up the JD projects, but more towards owning a land and then developing your own concept and do what you want to do. It all depends on that. So luxury could be in and around the CBD and the periphery of that, maybe extending up to Hebal, that side, and this side maybe. Even now, Harloor Road is demanding a very good price. It's about, say, 6,500 rupees, which comes under, as far as Bangalore is concerned, falls into definitely a luxury price bracket. As Bhaskar said, prices have gone up even up to 5,500 for a mid segment now. So you need to really evaluate how you want to place it. Luxury, not necessarily it has to be in and around CBD, or affordable need not have to be in and around the periphery. So it all depends. As Ashwinder said, how you want to develop a community, that depends on that. And what type of facility you're giving, what type of connectivity you're providing, that plays a major.
Sure. Thank you so much for your input, sir. Back to you, Mr. Bhaskaran. So homes been our safe haven, and post-COVID people expectations have grown, right? And need for personal space, family spaces, professional space has, so the design, pressure on design पहले सिर्फ घर चाहिए था, अभी because I am staying at home सब कुछ चाहिए, right? So basically it's impacting the design. People are asking for newer experiences, and what I've seen as a trend, right, is there's a lot of pressure on design innovation. So how are you adopting to that? What are the new trends that you see from a design perspective that will help the other developers?
See, I would likely tweak this question to answer a different way. Within a 2-bedroom, let us say we had earlier 1,500 square feet, 3-bedroom, right? Within the innovation you do, you lose somewhere the space to get something else. So the customers, there are certain customers who want to optimize within the existing budget, but the real design effect will come only if you expand your budget, right? If so 3-bedroom, you have to go to 3.5 or 4-bedroom. Then you get the real benefit of the space, what you're planning. Whatever technology you bring, whatever design optimization do, if you do within this, it become cramped space at the end of the day. You may say, I have one work from home, but it's a cramped space. So it's a two-way analysis. Those within the budget, they have to compromise on the space. Those who don't have budget constraint to a greater extent, they upgrade. That's how the concept of upgrade we are seeing now more post-COVID, right? Within the existing innovation, somewhere it plays a role, but we see the customers demanding more to upgrade where have a bigger space. In fact, somebody is looking at 1,300 square feet. Now they're looking at 1,500, 1,800 square feet. The 300 square feet makes a difference for them, and we get into whatever they want without compromising on the living space.
Okay. Thank you for your input. Back to you, Mr. Ashwinderji. On one end, home loans are at a record low, and on the other rise, as we are discussing, the prices are going up, right? With increasing material cost. So, means you just launched a bigger township, and I was actually amazed that there are 2,000 homes getting ready, and we are still able to sell new launches, right? So, means what do you see as a consumer trend with increasing cost? Are you going to still hold the prices? And if you still hold the prices and there is a sudden jump in inflation, how should a developer, because the volumes that you are handling probably are significant. So how do you maneuver this, right? So how do you achieve a balance between consumer expectation and the market reality? And would love to get your input on that.
See, Vikram, there are two things to it. One is, are you building it on your own land or are you doing a JDA? The question that you had asked earlier, because your margins substantially get impacted if you're on a JDA. And if you're doing a JDA, then it is all about, economies of scale. You cannot do one JDA project and think that you're going to make money. It is about doing multiple JDA projects, maybe 3, 4, 5, ability to manage those many projects and sell them quickly, deliver on time, then only your IRRs can be maintained. But you have to understand that when we talk about our, integrated township, which is Bhartiya City, and as you rightly said, we've sold around 4,500 apartments already, and we just launched a very small project. It is just, 800 odd projects. This is an owned land which was bought 10 years back, and you still have margins. My understanding is that India is constantly going to be a price sensitive market. You look at the way things are selling on Amazon and Flipkart just because of these billion-dollar sales. And you look at anything and everything, including housing. People are going to give importance to the price at which they buy. And that is why developers are very conscious of how they are going to increase the rates. See, the rates have not increased today. The input rates of cement, steel, and as Mr. Joshi was saying, other raw materials have been increasing for the last, 12 months. But nobody has increased pricing. Just to give you a perspective, we launched NICU 4. We paused our sales for 7 days and we have increased our pricing by 150 rupees. After selling some, 35–40% of the stock, because we realized that if the momentum is there and if you are able to sell, and what is the customer buying? Is the customer buying a project which is standalone, or is the customer buying into a story which is offering multiple things? What is the proposition? What is the value that you provide? Your pricing has to move like this. Now, for example, if I was to launch a product outside of Bhartiya City, my pricing strategy will be very different. Maybe because here the customer is buying Bhartiya City, there is going to buy a standalone project. So our ability, I strongly feel our ability to increase prices in the Indian subcontinent is with the way Indian consumer thinks, the way we have a first time home buyer, which is the millennial and Gen Z, is not going to be very high. Yes, we can do tweaks here and there, but it is a very price sensitive market, and especially if you talk about luxury, what the consumers want, they are wanting a part of the skin from the developer. And Srini can well understand, because Srini sells SNN, I sell Leela Residences, and these are ultra luxury residences. But when these clients come, it is so tough to handle them because they think they're doing a favor on the developer by buying a luxury product. It is a different ballgame altogether. So pricing is going to be very sensitive. All my learned colleagues like Rajinder, Abhishek, Bhaskaran, they will understand what I'm saying. Because when the rubber hits the road, the story is very different. Academically, we keep on discussing many things, but we know that volumes and price in India are going to go hand in hand. The quarter 2021 has seen a year-on increase of 2 to 3% in Bangalore residential property prices. Now, this is not even beating inflation. Contrary to it, I don't think most of the developers will be able to increase price the way it should be increased. They want to just do a tokenism and, we want to say, okay, we will see, my life doesn't change if I increase 90 rupees or 100 rupees per square feet, because I'm not doing volumes like maybe, some of the larger developers might be doing. But you look around, pricing, I don't think will go up significantly. The home loan rates definitely add a silver lining to the home sales. 6.5% is a beautiful rate at which you can borrow. I think, the stance.
How long do you think 6.5%? Because the inflationary pressure is already up.
Yes,
The
you're right.
government will have to increase interest rates.
Actually,
right?
what will happen is players like the smaller players will have to increase. See, an HDFC Limited might not increase, or an SBI might not increase because they are sitting on a 2.5 lakh crore portfolio. SBI is sitting on a 5 lakh crore portfolio where they would have portfolio at 10%, 9%, 8%. But say, for example, a company from where I come, Bajaj Housing, where the company is sitting at a 75,000 crore portfolio, Beyond a point, they will have to increase because the inflationary pressure is high. I think after the festive season, we might see how the credit policy, see, you look at RBI, the way it operates. For the last 4 sessions of credit policy, they have kept the rate of interest same. That means they are making us figure out that the rate of interest is not going to go down further. Secondly, mortgage as a risk asset is the best asset to lend because people don't default on their own homes and we don't have investors coming in. We have end users coming in, so they will not default. So obviously the risk adjusted return in mortgage is very price sensitive. I don't know when the rate of interest increase. It is similar to the housing prices. But over a period of time, I think it will be range bound between 6.5% to 7%. There are phenomenal schemes coming in where customers are paying 1/3 of the pre-EMI that they would have paid, which is definitely helping all of us developers. So the raw material prices have gone up. To be honest, I don't have the courage to increase the price, especially for under construction property, because it is really tough today to sell an under construction property. And I know what has, and everybody on this panel will increase because the customer is looking at a ready to move in inventory. The ready inventory is going down drastically.
Yeah.
And
there is no ready inventory in the market at all.
There's no ready inventory. And the under construction property selling, people waiting for 3 years, 4 years, unless you have a beautiful scheme for them where they say, okay, for the next 2-3 years, I don't have to shell out more till the time I get possession. They are okay. So selling under construction property is not easy. We are seeing this buoyancy in sales because a lot of inventory which was ready is getting sold out now. And new launches, Srini, Rajinder, Abhishek, all of us, Bhaskaran, are going to work very hard to sell new launches because finally the promoter is going to ask us CEOs that, boss, you said we want to do a new launch and now tell me on a daily basis how much are you selling. So that is, and everybody is smiling because we are all on the same board. So for new launches to succeed, pricing in India will always play a role. Design, location, size of the home, they are all ancillaries. Finally, the Indian consumer boils down to kitna deti hai. We end up buying Audi also, and the wife asks, the first thing is, what is the average of the Audi? Yeah. So that's how life is. I think increasing pricing is not going to be easy. Cost of construction is also dependent on the construction timeline.
Sir, I feel almost running out of time. I'm sorry.
Just one point that I wanted to make on the cost of construction is that if developers, as developer fraternity, and this is such an august panel, is that developers who are able to construct on scale and deliver on time and sell on time, they can still manage not to increase prices and absorb the cost and sell it on time, because IRR is also, a net present value of money. So if you are able to collect money faster, you can still absorb the cost.
Great. So bigger brands who can sell faster, borrow faster, have historical lands, have an undue advantage is what I hear. Anybody who's getting new into construction can stay away for a while. And only if he focuses on a certain micro market, that will help him to get across.
See, you need to talk to us. You need to talk to all 5 of us offline, and then, we can share our emotional side of the story.
Yeah, sure. My final question to all of you, and we'll quickly have to wrap this up, starting with, we can start with you, Mr. Abhishek. Considering the upcoming festive season, how are you gearing up to make the most of it? Do you think this year's festive buying season is going to see or rock every other season and do better? So Mr. Abhishek, we can start with you.
Back to the previous quarter, we have seen first quarter was really, really bad because of the second wave. But the second quarter, we started seeing traction on the ground. Our real focus is, of course, new launches. From the way our organization is viewing it, our RTM, ready to move in inventory, is almost over. We were sitting on over 2 million square foot. Now we are down to less than 400,000 square foot. Most of it
needs to year.
Yeah. And, for us, new launches are crucial. I believe that this festive season, with the interest rate environment, with the economic activity picking up, and we were talking about this, just before we started the discussion, You go to hotels, hotels are full, restaurants are full, cinema halls are filling up, people are out shopping. I think there is a lot of buoyancy. People, possibly last year's frustration of staying at home is coming out very differently this year, which is good news for the economy. I think we are in a V-shaped kind of recovery mode. And we're quite optimistic for this quarter and the next quarter, because on ground, we are seeing people wanting to take decisions. The government is supporting with the interest rates, which I believe will continue to remain where it is. RBI signaled it yesterday, or day before, whenever they made their announcement. So we believe that this interest rate environment will continue. New launches will come in because of the RTM supply going out of the market. And, I personally believe I have a slightly different view than Ashwinder, because I have tested the waters and we have increased prices and customers have accepted increased prices. So I come with that confidence of the fact that we have done it and it's worked for us, and the volumes are back at the same level that they were prior to increasing prices. Yes.
What are the targets for Puravankara for the quarter?
I can't give you, I'm in a silent period. I cannot give you forward-looking statements, but we're pretty excited. From what we are seeing on the ground, I think the numbers will stack up for everybody, for the entire industry, and which is good news. I mean, we've waited for a very long time.
Yeah. All the best, sir. Godspeed. Mr. Rajendra, over to you. So big plans for the festive season.
I agree with Abhishek that given the buoyancy in the market overall, which we did see in the Q2, and you will see it in all the developer results that are coming out. Some are publishing operational results. So clearly there is a buoyancy in the market. There is a preference for ready to move in, larger inventory, etc. More important, I think the confidence is back with the customer, that he knows that his future income is safe and secure, which was the issue in the last pandemic and the last financial year, particularly with Bangalore being the IT capital, global.
Bangalore never had that issue.
Bangalore, I think the issue in Bangalore last year was that people weren't sure, particularly the IT guys weren't sure which way it is going. But over the last 1 year, those doubts have receded in their minds. So with that, I think this festive season is going to be very good, particularly if you have the right inventory in the right locations. You would see pretty good sales. I would agree with Abhishek that all developers will see good sales. Everyone is trying various, of course, festive offers, this, that, etc. With all of that, I think it will be a good season, as I would see. Let's see how that shapes up.
Thank you so much. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Mr. Srini, what are you doing differently to get a bumper sale, or are you already sold out?
Yeah, basically, both of them have covered everything, Abhishek and Rajendra, that we are all definitely looking forward to the festive season, because August and September has been a little bit quiet for whatever reasons it is. People said it's Ashad and Pitru Paksh, so many other events where people don't want to book. But October is seeing definitely some kind of a green shoots as far as bookings are concerned. And from our point of view, we are really excited that things are going to look up from this festive season onwards, basically, because if you keep on sitting in the echo chambers, that you will keep on listening only to the negative messages. And even at SNN, as Abhishek said, that we believed very strongly that the prices have to go up, and we increased prices in a couple of projects. And we really felt that the customers definitely accept that for the product offering what we have given, particularly for a project like Claremont. I know that it's a super luxury project, but still there is a segment which is definitely interested in still purchasing. So festive season, we are looking really.
Luxury buying is going to go through the roof in Bangalore. All my friends are buying 3 crore, 5 crore apartments as if they were lollipops.
No, you see, in Devanahalli, people are willing to pay 1 or 2 crores for a site of say 5,000 square feet. So definitely, it's looking good in terms of future for real estate. It will definitely catch up, and then new launches. You will see a spate of new launches happening, if not immediately, at least the first quarter of next year. 2022 is really looking good, actually. 222 is going to do wonders.
All the best to you, sir. Mr. Bhaskaran, over to you.
See, I really confident that the sales will pick up during this festive season. Only I have one slight observation. If you notice this holiday period, no, be it Dashra, Diwali, is coming along with the weekends, right? People are cramped in the house for the last 1.5 year. Now slowly the I would say within state tourism has picked up. So some people may prefer to go and do this tourism because a long weekend, relax and come back. So that is the only point. But otherwise, definitely yes, you cannot have a better time than this for real estate.
Okay, great to hear that. Ashwinder ji, you're almost sold out 2 big launches, successful. Anything that you're launching new for the festive season? What are your plans?
Yes, Vikram, we would be now launching our first residential project outside of Bhartiya City. Actually, we are launching one in North Bengaluru, and we would be launching one near Sarjapur, which would happen in the next, 6 to 9 months. And we've just launched our retail mall, the Bhartiya Mall of Bengaluru. And this has been launched during the Navratras, and with the Leela Hotel also opening up, now we feel that this festive season we will be able to get in a lot of traffic, which will come to the hotel, which will come to the mall, and we already see that. So this should help. So I would, kind of agree with my, other colleagues and friends which are on the panel that hopefully things are going to be brighter this festive season. I agree with Srini what he said that, September was not as great as it should have had because of Shraddh, etc. But things have now picked up, and with other ancillary stuff happening, things should look good, especially for Bangalore. Because of the way the city is attracting new employment and the COVID cases going down. Hopefully, we don't know how the COVID kind of reacts after the festive season and Diwali is there. But till now, the numbers have been under control. Unless and until something drastic happens on the COVID side, and you are again back to a difficult situation from a lockdown perspective. Things look good. People need to buy a home. They want to buy a home, and Bangalore is one of the finest markets and a very positive market, and the most professional set of developers that operate in India, I think, are in Bangalore, because I have worked across markets in my earlier roles. Truly, my regard and respect for my competition in Bangalore is the highest. Including all my friends who are representing their organizations. This is the most professional real estate market, and the consumers' trust on developers is much higher than the other markets. So that also plays a big role.
Great. Thank you so much, sir. I think we'll get back to the questions that are asked by other people. Sapna, are you there? Over to you.
Yes.
And
So
thank
that
you,
was,
thank you so much. What a great panel and great discussions.
very
Sushma,
positive, I must say, very positive,
yeah. Bangalore is red
sentiments.
hot is what I hear. The sentiment is positive. And let's see what other people have to ask as questions. So that'll be.
Yes, very positive sentiments, very bullish on the festive season as well. I know one question that has come is about the investors, how financial lenders and investors are focusing on the housing, on the residential segment. Commercial, we have seen a lot of, confidence of investors, domestic and international. In terms of housing market, what is the lenders, financial lenders and investors strategies or outlook? Anyone in the panel, it's open to the panel, whoever would like to take this question.
Maybe I can start, and then possibly. There is a lot of liquidity in the market, Sapna, at this point in time, and that liquidity in the market is enabling two things. One is, of course, the interest rates are down on the customer buying side, but even from the lending point of view, there is a lot of capital out there which wants to lend capital for real estate projects. And of course, on the private equity and on the investor side, there is a lot of interest to deploy capital. And some of the largest financial institutions in the world today are looking at opportunities, especially in the residential real estate sector in India. And the way it seems from the investors' point of view, like we are bullish, they are very, very optimistic about the performance of this sector for next possibly up to 2 to 3 years time frame. Because it's been a 5 year cycle, 7 year cycle, in fact, where we have gone through a cycle, and we believe that the demand is back. Only issue here, and that will continue to remain, is that the credit rating will have to be high. The quality of investments will have to be high. They're going to be very, very critically evaluating who they are giving to the capital, and the brand and the ability to deliver and perform is going to be very, very critical for this deployment of capital. So the kind of due diligence that some of these investors are looking at doing is quite detailed, and but there is a lot of interest. I think in next 6 to 9 months, we'll see a lot of capital coming into the sector.
So this is true for probably grade A developers or the big developers. They are because a lot of small developers still complain that they are not able to get lending or probably at very high rates. A lot of small developers have that kind of complaint on that. Is it true for the grade A developers that the finance is easily available, or are you saying is it across, or does it depends on again, as you said, the track record of the developer?
Yeah,
Ashwin,
I
you
can.
want to go? You were saying
Yeah.
something. Sorry, yes, Rajendra.
Yeah,
I guess so.
sorry.
Sorry, Ashwin. So I would say that money today is really chasing the larger developers, because those are the people who have a good track record of delivery. Because you would remember that earlier in the 2007-8, a lot of people burned their money, the PE investors. So they've been very, very cautious. But I would say that in the last 3-4 months, there has been a lot of interest in the residential real estate, which was not there. For example, if you look back 12 or 18 months back, there was absolutely no interest from the PE guys in the residential real estate, which is coming back. And we have had the conversations with some of the big names in the last 4 to 8 weeks. So there is a lot of money chasing, but the larger developers who have a good track record. My own sense is that for the smaller developers, it is, unless you have a good track record, someone like say SNN or others, it would be difficult to get money from the market.
Okay. So investors are interested, but they have a cautious approach
That's right.
towards investing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Another question that we have seen secondary business districts coming up in terms of commercial real estate. Now we are seeing retail coming up in residential complexes. Is this the rising trend? Resi retail, as a lot of people says, is this the rising trend? This is how we are going to see the new real estate developments. Mr. Srinivasan, this goes to you.
Yes, definitely. Mixed use is definitely one of the things which we are also considering, looking at a larger parcel closer to connectivity, plus developing some kind of a commercial with residential. But there are challenges definitely attached to that, and the bigger players can definitely play a role in terms of how they develop it. Maybe with the help of architects, definitely we can come up with something which is commercial plus a mixed use of residential, and retail could be worked out in future. Okay. Anyone who would like to add to that? Are we going to see resi retail townships now?
I would say that resi retail is going to stay. Brigade has done a few developments, Metropolis in East Bangalore, Gateway in Southwest Bangalore, which have been prime examples where you have shopping centers, malls in a larger mixed-use development. As Ashwinder said, they have just now opened a mall at Bharatiya City. I think this convenience of living in a complex where you have retail next door, a hospital, a school, probably an office, I think is the trend that's going to stay, and people would prefer to be in such destinations, even if you had to pay a little premium.
Just to add to what Mr. Rajendra told, as at the beginning, it comes with a big, large development of township where you have everything, like what you are doing in Urbana in North Bangalore. You have a school, fully functional school. You have office space planned. You have a retail planned. You have hospital getting planned. So those type of developments you can see much more in the years to come.
Okay. So one last question. We have lots of questions, but we have paucity of time. One last question to everyone. One sentence outlook for the future for Indian real estate. Mr. Kapoor, starting from you, your one-line outlook for Indian real estate going forward.
Extremely positive. extremely positive. I think for next 3 years, for sure, up to 24, we are in a bull cycle, and I believe volumes will go up, prices will go up. I think it's a good time to buy, and overall the economy should do much better.
Okay, so tip for those who are watching us, this is the right time to buy. Mr. Joshi, from you.
I would think that the market will continue to consolidate to larger, better known brands. The demand is going to be there, but it would get consolidated towards the larger players. That's the trend that I see.
Okay, more consolidation. So that's a sign of maturing, of a segment or of a sector. So more consolidation on cards. Mr. Srinivasan, your outlook for India.
Looking very exciting, and it's going to be a buzzing Bengaluru, definitely for sure, as far as real estate is concerned. And more new launches, more options for home buyers. And I think it's going to be happy days ahead for sure.
Okay, exciting times for Bengaluru real estate.
Absolutely.
Mr. Bhaskaran, what do you have to say?
After 5 years or 5 to 7 years of lull in the real estate sector for various reasons, one for the reason of the developers themselves, and for the reforms, all three reforms came together: denotification, demonetization, RERA, GST, all those things. Now things are steady, and it is from here. It is only with no more things to happen. Only the digitization, which is what is going to drive this. It's a right time, and it's a high time. And I always feel buying real estate anytime is a good time.
Okay, buying real estate is anytime a good decision, good finance decision and emotional decision. And we have already faced the 3 tsunamis, which Mr. Bhaskaran mentioned, and now good times are ahead. Mr. Singh, your outlook for Indian real estate.
See what has happened in China, and the capital that was flowing to China will now start coming to India. That is going to be a big one. And that capital will definitely get attracted more towards income yielding assets, but residential will also become an important aspect there. So with more home buyers interested and more capital coming in, which was going towards China to India, so it is going to be great for the fraternity as a whole, for home buyers, for the developers and the industry. I just wish that real estate gets the industry status soon, so that all of this combines and this becomes a good 10-year bull run. We've had a very tough last 10 years, and maybe these next 10 years can be for the residential real estate. So just one thing that this we need is an industry status, and if it comes, there are a lot of shops and capital that will get attracted towards us, and it will be very good for the home buyers also, because then affordability will also be taken care of.
That's right. So industry status is going to increase affordability for real estate, and with a lot of China industries now moving from China to India will create a lot of jobs across. And I think tier 2 and 3 cities real estate is going to be in limelight because of that. So Vikram, you heard all our speakers what they had to say. What is your sum up of the entire session, and what's your outlook now after listening to all our speakers?
So it's all music to my ears, right? As the real estate market grows, and
in a lighter vein, Vikram is now running to buy 1 or 2 in Bangalore.
So as digitization grows, the demand for automation grows, collaboration grows. We just raised a good amount of funds to push the tech in real estate, because for the first time I've seen adoption growing. Before this, we struggled to adopt, but pandemic has been a blessing for us. And the adoption and the benefits have been proven now. And with the markets growing, obviously, but I truly believe from whatever experiences I have had, consumer is demanding it more than the developer. Because they want service, they want convenience, they are a millennial generation, they are used to technology. So there's no ifs and buts, but technology is going to play a huge part going forward on the service, on this customer service part and design part and everything actually. So, and it is going to do great for the next 5 years.
Okay, fantastic. So customer is the king in present times, and technology is the driving force, whether it is consumers or whether it is the industry. So, and in fact, Bengaluru real estate market is known to be at the forefront, leader in terms of, leading new innovations in the real estate industries. It has the lowest inventories when it comes to other markets of India. So great. I think the future looks great. Let me thank all our speakers for taking those questions. In fact, we had more, and Vikram, I will pass it on to you for the report that you will be creating. We all got some very valuable takeaways from today's discussion. A very big thank you to all of our eminent speakers for sharing their views and opinions. Sincere thanks to our awesome audience as well for being here, sharing their time and sending in their questions. Let me also thank Sell.do for taking the initiative of organizing this summit and bringing together these experts, the leaders of Bengaluru Realty. With this, we come to the end of today's session. We wish you all the health and well-being and look forward to seeing you all in person too very soon. So thank you, our speakers. For now, goodbye, but we hope to meet you soon. Thank you so much. Thank you, Srini sir. Thank you, Mr. Rajendra Joshi. Thank you, Mr. Bhaskaran. Thank you, Ashwinder Singh. Thank you, Mr. Abhishek Kapoor and Vikram for that wonderful moderation. Thank you, everyone.